Hello, it is Alita Waddington with you here today on your very beloved podcast, Everything Books. So today I'm going to share and discuss a book with you that I have just recently read and cannot get over, called, drumroll please, Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. Yes, Uglies. A novel jam-packed full of suspense and betrayal, trust, friendship, and l'amour. So, here's just a brief description / prologue thing before we get started. Uglies is set in a dystopian future after our generation managed to kill ourselves off by ways I will not mention to avoid spoilers. And so now, to avoid another disaster, humanity has divided itself into 4 sections: Uglies, Pretties, Specials, and Extras. Uglies live in a place called Uglyville until they're 16 years old, and then they get shipped to a city called New Pretty Town and get an operation to make them picture perfect. And then their only job is to have fun and party all day and party all night. Specials are the pretties who do the operation and make sure that everything is as it should be. Okay, so now that that's over, to discuss this book with you, I have devised several questions to answer. And here to help me with this podcast today is my book partner in crime, Olivia McDonald, who has also just finished this book.
Book partner in crime, huh? I like it. Should we get started?
We shall.
Okay, here we go. Alita, which scene did you find most pivotal for the book, and how would its absence affect the story if it were missing?
Okay, well, in my opinion, the most pivotal scene, I think, is right after Tally has just broken into the New Pretty Town and she is running away and trying to get away from the cops. And in the process, she ends up meeting Shay, her soon-to-be best friend. Though there were multiple scenes that are essential in the book, let's be fair here, in all honesty, there wouldn't have even been a story had that scene not taken place.
Tally would have just turned pretty and never rebelled after discovering the truth of the pretty operation, right?
Right. It would have been her doing exactly what she was supposed to do. And this scene was one that I actually quite liked, really. For me, it sort of displayed the unity and the similarity of the Uglies when Tally met Shay, just because, as you know, she was also pulling a prank on the New Pretties, and she was also trying to hide and get away from the wardens because they were looking for Tally.
And also, further on in that scene, they proceed to help each other in other ways to get away from the wardens that Tally unintentionally got the attention of when taking her illegal trip to New Pretty Town.
Of course. Well, obviously she didn't mean to get them in trouble.
Okay, moving on. What surprised you most about the book? I suppose character-wise, plot-wise, what caught you off guard or you weren't expecting?
Well, you mean other than the obvious plot twist? I'm gonna have to say when Tally switches sides and who she makes her new life with. So basically at the start of the book, as you know, she was so convinced that she wanted the operation to make herself pretty and to live in New Pretty Town, and so much to the extent that she went to the smoke as a spy and an infiltrator in order to be granted the operation. And then after spending a few weeks in the smoke, she switched her alliances and she chose to trust the runaways and the rebels instead of the pretties. And for all you listeners out there, the smoke, in which I'm talking about, is a rebel base that all the runaways and all the people who do not want the operation stay at. And yeah, that was the most shocking, just because when she made that decision, she knew about one person, not even really, and she was not prepared to do a hard day's work and have to contribute to making life sustainable, and yet she chose to make her new life there and not in a place that she had dreamed about for 16 years.
And I mean, Tally was brought up by her parents in Uglyville, always in the shadow of New Pretty Town, and she was basically taught from birth to love that place, to want to be there, and when you turn 16, you live the dream. So her quick decision to start life in the smoke as a runaway is so unexpected. Also, the way Scott Westerfeld built out that moment, though, you really think that the moment she makes it up to the smoke, she's going to signal the pretties and turn everyone in to get it over with. But nope.
Wow, we're really on the same page, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, on the same page, and we're talking about books. Funny.
You really think it's funny? I didn't even plan that.
No, it was dumb, but nice try.
Oh, well, one can try.
Hey, don't get all sad on me. I'm not done asking all your book questions. So, if you could give any of the characters from the book Uglies advice, who would it be directed to, and what would you tell them? And if there were any actions made by the characters that you disagreed with, please do share.
Advice. Let's see. I think my advice this time is going to have to go to Shay. So since Tally met her, she was completely opposed to the idea of being turned pretty, and we always hear about how her friends have not wanted to they haven't wanted the operation as well, and so they actually ran away too, which is exactly what Shay was planning to do. So my advice to her would definitely be to make sure that she's really thinking through her decisions and she's choosing what she wants to do, because it seems like she's basing her decisions on her friends' actions and what they're planning on doing.
And the second part of the question, were there any actions made that you didn't like or agree with?
There were actually quite a few things that I didn't particularly like, but there was one that I'll definitely put above all the others. It drove me absolutely crazy when Tally could not decide whether or not to turn the smoke in and return to Uglyville for the operation, or to join in with the rebels and start a new life. It just bothered me because she was so wishy-washy about it, so to say.
Why though? The decision was what shaped the rest of the plot.
No, I'm aware of that. I just mean that she should have picked a decision to either signal the Pretties as soon as she got there, or decided to stay there and make a new life with the Smokies before she arrived. Just so that she wouldn't end up what she ultimately ended up doing, which was spending weeks upon weeks trying to win a little mini battle in her head on what to do. And also, the longer that she stayed there, the more she learned about the smoke and the life there, as well as all the dirty little dark secrets of being a pretty. So both options ultimately in the long run got altered in the process, which made her decision even more difficult. I mean, if I was Tally, I think my approach would have just been to make a quick decision, turn them all in, and get the dream life, you know? No, I'm just kidding. But the fast approach would have definitely been my strategy. I mean, I wouldn't want to get all confused and have my decision made harder by learning how much life could ultimately be better in the smoke and all the dirty little secrets of the pretty life.
Okay, well, I guess I understand your point of view in the last part at least. However, by her learning the secret of the pretty operation, she also learned why the specials include that part of the operation and keep it a secret. I like how hard we've been trying to avoid spoilers for our listeners.
Oh yes, so hard. Though I think we let a few pieces of information slip. We are so sorry.
Truly, but seriously, you guys, this book is amazing. Hopefully, if we didn't give out too much info, it has inspired you to read the book. Sorry, I just had a catch in my throat. We are really sorry, but seriously, you guys, this book is amazing. Hopefully, if we did give out too much info, it has inspired you to read the book.
Well put, Olivia. Well put.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so there's one more part to this question you have written. Lita, what past influences have shaped the actions of the characters in this story?
Okay, well, for Tally, Shay, and David, Tally being the protagonist and Shay and David being the two main characters other than her, there were definitely a lot of factors that played into how they act and react to things. I'll use Tally as the first example. With Tally, she's always believed that the pretty operation is the best thing in life. She grew up with the well-meaning but careless parents, and she basically just had the normal life that she was supposed to have. So for her to do anything out of the ordinary, she was very timid about it, she didn't like it, and just because she was brought up doing the opposite or knowing better. Shay, on the other hand, had it a little bit different. Sure, she went through the same life stages as Tally, but she always had the friends who liked to rebel and talk about running away all the time to avoid being turned pretty. So Shay's used to doing rebellious things, she's used to being spontaneous, I suppose you can say, and that's just because ultimately she had the influence from an early stage in her life. And now for David, he's a whole nother story. David was born in the smoke. He didn't run away from the city to avoid the operation. His parents, they ran away after they learned the truth about what happens during the operation, and then after founding the smoke, they decided to have him. Oh yeah, by the way, if I didn't mention that before, David's parents created the smoke. So he's always lived in the wilderness. He's rebel-born, so to say, and so yeah, he knew everything that Shay and Tally didn't know about the smoke, but he had no knowledge at all whatsoever about the city and the life in the city.
I don't even think you explained who David is.
Oh, right. Okay, well, brief description. David is a teenage boy, roughly Tally's age, I think maybe about a year older, and he is the son of the founders of the smoke, and he's in charge of bringing the runaways and the rebels to the smoke, and anyone who doesn't want the operation. So he's also Tally's love interest and he's Shay's love interest and Tally's lover. If you read that, you'll understand how complicated it can get. But getting back to the question, those are the main things that have really affected how the characters act now.
Oh, the tragic love of rebellious teens.
I know, don't you miss it?
No.
Wow, Debbie Downer. Anyways, since the next question is the second last question, I'm gonna ask you it now, okay?
Fine, but just because I know my voice will grace this podcast and its listeners.
That is the spirit, Olivia. That is the spirit. Okay, so do you think that the ending of this book was appropriate? And how would you have liked to see the story conclude?
I thought the ending was really well done. It was a huge cliffhanger though, and it leaves you with so many questions as to what's going to happen next, especially with the future of the pretty system and the more detailed affairs with Tally, Shay, and David. I liked it. I don't really have any objections to it except one, which is I wish we found out what happens with David and Tally. Because as you know, and anyone who's read this story knows, Tally leaves on very bad terms with him at the end. They had a very large disagreement, and he found out the truth about Tally and her motives for going to the smoke in the first place.
I agree with you completely on that one. So what do you think is going to happen next to the characters?
Honestly, I'm not too sure. There's been a million different ways this plot could go now. I do think that Tally and David are going to make amends just because since the beginning they've had some sort of deep connection. As for what happens to Tally now that she's made such a risky decision to help her friends, I think either her plan is going to work, but there's going to be a lot of rough patches due to the side effects of what her plan consists of.
True, but I think I'd say risk factors, not side effects, just because most likely a lot of things that are going to happen probably will.
Alright, I'm going to let you finish the rest of the question now, which is, how have the characters changed by the end of the book, and have your views about the book changed all now having it all read?
Okay, well, Tally, she changed the most throughout the book, I think. She was expecting to live the dream life, then one day she had too many obstacles, too many opportunities to see things differently, and then poof, her views changed completely. She was making more unexpected choices, and ultimately she became an entirely different person. She was really the only character that you really got to see the change in because she was the protagonist. Everybody else, they didn't really develop, or at least you couldn't really see them. Wait, actually no, I suppose that you could say that David changed, just in a sense that he grew up more. He became the mentor for Tally, and he was just doing overall a lot more by the end of the book, but yeah.
And did any of your views change?
Yeah, for sure. At the beginning of the book, I was thinking, like, who wouldn't want the pretty operation, you know? You'd have to be crazy not to want that life. However, now that I've read it completely through, and I know both sides to the operation and what it does, I am completely 100% with her for not getting it. So, would you say that you've read any books that are comparable to Uglies? I was just thinking about this one myself. I'm not too sure if I ever have.
Well, there are the dystopian future and sci-fi books that fall in the same genre, and with the same concept, I suppose, of rebels defying the all-great and powerful government, or dictator.
Oh, yes. Sort of like the Hunger Games or Divergent would sort of relate. But then again, they're also completely different plot-wise.
Well, I suppose that's a good thing. It's saying this book is amazing and there aren't many ones like it.
Precisely. And you know, I hadn't even heard of Scott Westerfeld until my cousin introduced me to this book a few months ago. And now I cannot wait to read the next 3 books in the series, which are Pretties, which is the book after Uglies, then Specials, and then the last book in the series is called Extras.
Okay, well, that's all I think we have time for today, so thank goodness we finished all the questions in time.
Oh, shoot, you're right. Okay. Well, that's a wrap then. Thank you for all you wonderful listeners who are tuning in to hear us talk, and a special thank you to Olivia McDonald for putting up with my book questions today and helping me out. I hope you all really liked this episode of Uglies by Scott Westerfeld, and I really hope we inspired you to go out and give it a shot, because like we said, it is truly amazing. And that's it for this week's episode. I hope you tune in again to hear me discuss a new book, because as you know, I do one every single week, and I'll see you all next time. Have a wonderful day.